is bringing down the United States of America. That's what it's about. But it's really about Edom. And guess what? There are no more ethnically distinct Edomites. They were destroyed numerous times over. The last time we even see one mentioned is Herod of Idumea. Idumea is the Greek way to say Edom. After that, we don't really see them pop up. We don't know where they were. They're gone. This is fulfilled. And their dwelling place in Petra, it was like a ghost town until archaeologists discovered it. And they said, oh, this sounds like biblical prophecy fulfilled. And it was.
This was funny. First and foremost, I want to give all the praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Baruch the abundance to the elder apostles of the great millstone who rule well, peace, blessings, and salutations unto the whole full elect tabernacle of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Let's talk about a snake that constantly chokes himself every time he slithers. I'm talking about this man right here, Vocab Malone, aka Haman Malone. And this was captured and reposted by the elder Yashawamba. Vocab says Herod was the last Edomite mentioned, and they have been destroyed many times. So there you have it. So the Edomites are no longer here because the Idumeans was the last line of Edomites on earth, and they just happened to just vanish. They just disappeared, and pretty much Esau got erased off the face of the earth. But what's interesting is, we've been asking him for years this question about, whether Edomites are done away with or not. And he's always had different stances on it. All right. To show you how ambivalent Vocab is about this subject. And I make sure I put it in this video here a few years back, 15 minutes of Vocab Malone's folly. All right. And right here, he happened to be conversing with the brothers out in, I believe, in Columbus. And you're going to hear him mention that the Edomites are done away with, that Obadiah 18 was already fulfilled. So listen to this real quick.
What he's doing, he's prophesying. He's reading a future prophecy. That's a future prophecy. That's a future prophecy. Get Malachi 1.
Produce me a
Malachi 1.
that says the Edomites are exterminated.
Malachi 1.
How would that even be a thing? Well,
he said that was already fulfilled. And that reverts back to that question, one of the questions that I put up at these Christians, Vocab and these Christians, when and where, or should I say, how and when was Obadiah verse 18 fulfilled? Because when we revisit that prophecy, it says that both the house of Judah and the house of Israel will be involved in this prophecy. Obadiah verse 18. And it says, in the house of Jacob shall be a fire, in the house of Joseph a flame. So the entire nation of Israel, right? And the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them. And there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord hath spoken it. He said that was fulfilled, right? And you can never get a genuine, thorough answer concerning this particular verse. 1 minute they'll say, oh, it was fulfilled in Maccabees, or the revolt of the Maccabees. They went to they had the battle of Erebataine, and they slaughtered them in a battle and made them flee, and thus there's no more Edomites in the land. What? Then you also hear the argument that their line pretty much integrated into the Ishmaelites, and now the Edomites are Arabs now. And guess what? Vocab, he actually he actually said that years ago. So let's continue to listen to this video, and you're gonna hear it. And I believe it was what was the brother name from the Sakari camp? Yatab, I think is his name. He actually brought it out. So let me play this real quick.
All right, so look what Vocab says. This is a post that he had made, or not a post, or it's a message he had left on Facebook, and I had saved it. It says, I do not care to invest in responding to this dude on a trolling spree. It says, but let me clarify one thing. It is true, Edomites as a distinct people group, that's the new word that these Christians are using now when it comes to Esau, as a distinct people group are no longer around. However, it is also true much of their line was assimilated into the Arabs who took over the area. It is also probably true some of the line was assimilated into some of the Judeans who conquered the area prior to the New Testament era. Either way, it's a distinct Semitic people group becoming enveloped by two other distinct Semitic people groups. Europeans had literally nothing to do with it. So once again, he's trying to get the Europeans out, get them away from the title of Edom. All right, and he just said that the Edomites turned into the Arabs. Their line was assimilated into the Arabs and into the Judeans. So basically, the Edomites are still here. They're just not calling themselves Edom anymore. They're just the Arabs and the Judeans. I mean, this is the new doctrine of the confused council of Christians, man.
So as you can see, that was his stance years ago, right? So it's which one is it? Are they here or are they not here? Do they exist or do they not exist? So he's pretty much choking himself on this topic, and that's why when you stay in prophecy, these Christians usually show that they're not able to swim. They can't swim. All right, when you deal with prophecy and ask them these biblical questions, that's like taking them into deep waters. You take them far enough, they start drowning. Okay, and I'll definitely make sure to post the scripture, James 1:8. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. All right, so he's ambivalent about this particular topic, so he really doesn't know. Okay, now we know by prophecy that the Edomites are still here. All right, and if he said that they assimilated into the Arabs and the Judeans, well, that would mean that you're admitting that the modern day jewelry would have to have traces of Edomites within that line, right? And even the scholars that writes these biblical encyclopedias agree. All right, now you can search this up in the books, Google Books, and this is the information you'll get. You know, brothers, apostles brought this out, numerous times. This is from a book called A Study on Biblical on the Eschatology of the Bible, and this is what it says. It says right here, it says identification of the Jews as Edom is found in many places, and indeed in places where it might be least expected. Few will expect the statement Edom is modern Jewry in a Jewish encyclopedia. And these is mentioned in multiple sources in these Jewish encyclopedia, different various versions of the encyclopedia or different editions. All right, they maintain that the modern Jewry is Edom, and pretty much that's them telling on themselves. Okay, let's get that in Psalms 64:8. Psalm 64 verse 8, it says, so they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves, all that see them shall flee away. All right, they know that they the Edomites, especially the Rothschilds. Why you think they changed their name from Bauer to Rothschild, which means red shield? They know that they're the Edomites, and they've been working so hard to get that birthright back. Now, what vocab would never tell you is that he's a German. He's one of the German Idumeans. He's an Idumean. Now, the origin of that term, like when you go back during the time of the Hasmonean dynasty, when you had John Hyrcanus the first, he was one of the ones who actually forcibly converted Edomites into the practice of um, what they would call Judaism. I say, basically he forced them to keep the law. And when they started to practice our customs and law, they became like the Jews. But nations around them started to basically call them Jews because they were practicing the customs of the Jews. So you had Edomite converts who were being called Jews. And it so happened that the Herodians, they were a part of that. They married into the line and they became so-called Jews. And that's how the Herodians rose up in the ranks. And the Romans had them in favor. All right. Now, when you look up Judean or Judean, let me see. You'll see that the Greek word for Judea or Judean and Idumea is almost similar. All right, so you got Matthew 2, and this is talking about Herod, right? Which this fathead snake, all right, vocab, he don't even realize that there were uh, a line of Herodians, not just Herod. Herod the Great wasn't the only Herodian.
Is bringing down the United
All
States
right,
of
there was a
America. That's what
line,
it's about.
Slacky, let
But
me
it's really
pause this. There was a line of Herodians, okay? You had
and guess what? There are no more
Salakia.
distinct Edomites. They were destroyed numerous.
You had a line of Herodians. Agrippa, King Agrippa, who Apostle Paul um appealed to, um well, not appeal, but he had a hearing where he spoke his case to King Agrippa in hopes of him putting in a good word for him to Caesar. And he was a Herodian, okay? And it was speculated that him and his sister Berenice, they had a incestuous relationship going on. I don't know how true that is, but according to certain historians, that was such. They had that kind of relationship, and I can believe that because that's how Esau get down. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau. But that was another Herodian. Okay. Anyway, um, Matthew 2:1 it says, "Now when Yahushua was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem." Now look up that word Judea, because there's a reason why they started calling the Edomites Idumea, which is Greek. Judea, he shall be praised. Okay. Now let's do a word search for Idumea now. So you got Eudea, right? Let's go to the search. And then this is Mark 3:8, and from Jerusalem and from Idumea or Idumea and from beyond Jordan, and they about Tyre and Zidon, a great multitude, when they had heard what great things he did, came unto him. Now let's look up that term, Idumea. So you see it right here, it says Idumea. So you got Idumea and you got Iadiah. All right. So they're very similar. Why? Because this is what they were being called once they integrated with the Judites and started practicing their customs. Okay. And there's history on it. You see right here, it says the Edomites were first subjugated by David, but after his death, they disputed Solomon's authority, and in the reign of Joram, recovered their liberty, which they maintained, transmitting from generation to generation their hatred of Israel, until they were conquered again by Hyrcanus and subjected to the government of the Jews. Okay, let me see something. And make no mistake about it, they try to make the distinction between these people and the Romans, but the Romans and these Idumeans, they were all the same people. They were all Edomites, and you can all link that together by how Edom exalts itself as the eagle, pursuant to Obadiah. All right, we'll get that next, but let me get this real quick. This is Antipater the Idumean, right? Was the founder of the Herodian dynasty and father of Herod the Great. According to Josephus, he was the son of Antipas and had formerly held that name. All right. A native of Edom, southeast of Judah, between the Dead Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba, which under the Romans came to be known as Idumea. Antipater became a powerful official under the later Hasmonean kings and subsequently became a client of the Roman general Pompey the Great when Pompey conquered Judah in the name of the Roman Republic. All right, so that's how they come to get that name. All right, it became that under Rome, but the Greeks, because the Hellen language was still prominent, even though Rome was in power. But you had Greek and you had Latin. Those were the prominent languages of the world in that time. Okay, so if you understand that and know that, then you would also know that during the wars between the Jews and the Romans during from 66 to 70 A.D., you had Idumeans that was fighting on the side of Jake. Okay, they was fighting against the Romans, Edomites. So we know that once it all spilled over and they put it into the state of Judea, and when they ransacked the temple, they besieged, everything was pretty much done. a lot of Israelites fled, but guess what? You had Edomites among them that fled too. Okay, they actually fled too. So that would mean that there will still be a remainder of them out there, and they would, spread themselves, and mainly they went into those northern countries, those northern European countries and Christian countries that we know today. Countries like Poland and Germany, Spain, England. That's where they went to. Okay, and they went up into the caves up in Georgia, Russia, which is their natural habitat. Because what was their holy land? I mean, it's not holy land. What was their native land? Mount Seir, which was the caves. All right, because they were cave dwellers. The land was given to them after the Horites had it, or which the word Horite means cave dweller. All right, so they fled and they went up north, and that's how they ended up in those mountains. And then years later, they came down into the countries, assimilated themselves, even though they were a lot of places they wasn't wanted. And then eventually, the Lord rose them back up. Okay, but anyway, I just want to just make this point. Now, there was a reason why I asked about Isaiah the 63rd chapter in those series of questions to the Christians. So if you believe that there's no distinct Edomites left in the earth, then why would Isaiah prophesy that the Lord's going to come back and devour Edom? Let's revisit that. Isaiah 63. And this is supposed to be the Lord's return. And that's why I asked, was this fulfilled already? Or is this going to be fulfilled? And if this is going to be fulfilled, why is Edom being mentioned? So is the Lord going to come to a desolate, empty land? All right, that's just nobody dwells there. It's just a tourist attraction. All right, with all those Roman pillars and all those holes in the rocks. Nobody dwells there. Which nobody dwells there in Petra. Right. So is this prophecy referring to him going over there, and he's just gonna make a sore slaughter with nobody there? What sense does that make? Isaiah 63:1. Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel? Just like Esau came out red all over like a hairy garment. That was a foreshadowing of his judgment. The fact that when they described his appearance, they described him like a red, hairy garment. Yahweh Shai is coming back, and according to the vision of his return, the garment he had on is likened unto a garment that's been dipped in blood, which is basically using symbolism of him coming back for vengeance to destroy, to do a lot of slaying. And it's going to a lot of Edomites that are here today, their blood's gonna get spilled. That's what that's going into. But according to Fathead, the snake, Haman Malone, there's no distinct Edomites left on the earth. So who is he coming back to get then? It says, wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? I have trodden the wine press alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. This is also part of the gospel, by the way. When you read the Isaiah the 61st chapter, this is part of the gospel. All right, vocab, he would try to separate this. All right, because he wants all the good news. He doesn't want to hear the bad news for him and his people. All right. So if this is not fulfilled, then why is he coming from Edom? Why is Edom even being mentioned? But we know this isn't a fulfilled prophecy yet, because that same winepress is spoken of in Revelation. This is how you know these devils don't have the spirit of prophecy, man. Revelation 19 verse 10, it says, "And I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, See, thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahushai. Worship the Most High, for the testimony of Yahushai is the spirit of prophecy." And they clearly, a lot of these Christians clearly don't have that. This is why they struggle. This is why they drown when we deal with the prophecy. You have to have the spirit in order to ride them waves of prophecy, man, or you'll get drowned. Okay? It says, "And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doeth judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself." All right, and that, and, brothers did lessons on that. It doesn't mean that nobody knew his name. Okay, I'm pretty sure several brothers did lessons on that. All right, it says and he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name was called the Word of the Most High. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations. And guess what? Esau happens to be among that. So it's not just Esau. The other nations are going to be a part of that fiery wrath too. They all going to catch the smoke. But it just so happened that Esau is going to be the main one ruling. This is his dominion. This is his kingdom. That's why we can conclude that when we go to 2nd Esdras 6, that Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning that follow. Because when Yahushua comes back and conquer these nations, then it'll be the beginning of the dominion of Jacob. And guess what? That's going to be forever. That's going to be eternal rule without end. So right before the Lord comes back and take these nations down in all their dominion, Esau is going to be the one in dominion. And that's why you got to understand the biblical timeline of history and how it coincides with the prophecies. When Daniel goes into the fourth beast, that was more dreadful, and he was diverse from every other beast. It's going into the Roman Empire. Most of the biblical scholars can agree on that. But then John the Revelator gets a vision of that same beast. All right, and it was a wound. It was wounded to death, but that deadly wound healed, and it was gonna rule for a season. That's a whole nother lesson. But that shows you right there that the Edomites, even though they fell under the ancient Roman Empire, they were in exile. They were basically, the Lord brought them down for a season. They were in the bottomless pit, but then they were loose for a season, and they went out and they went and deceived the whole world, and got the world believing that they're not the Edomites. They did everything in their power to hide this information, these facts. The Edomites are still here, and they're ruling the world. So this is who the Lord's going to judge and make war with when he comes back. That's why the elites are trying to make their escape route. They're trying to create their Noah's Ark. It says, "And he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of the Almighty power." So there it is. You can also read in Isaiah the 34th chapter that his sword shall be bathed in heaven and shall come down upon Idumea. And it just so happened that Idumea, which that's an anachronism, they wasn't being called that until later. So during the time of Isaiah, the term Idumea wouldn't have been used. It would have been Adawam. All right, Isaiah 34 and 1, it says, "Come near, you nations, to hear and hearken, you people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world and all the things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations. They all gonna be a part of that wine press. And his fury upon all their armies, and he have utterly destroyed them. He have delivered them to the slaughter. Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountain shall be melted with their blood, and all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heaven shall be rolled together as a scroll. And that's describing the mushroom cloud. All right, when this nuclear war breaks out, and you even got the UN chief saying that we're one misstep closer to a nuclear annihilation. All right, so they know that a nuclear war is imminent, but it's still things that have to be fulfilled until that point. All right, so if this is prophesying of such an event, why is this describing that it's going to happen in a time of the Idumeans being here? Because it's getting ready to say that in the next verse. It says, "And all their hosts shall fall down as the leaf fall from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment." All right, and Apostle Ramla did a series of videos of the Edomites and who was cursed to judgment. He broke this down already. All right, these Edomites, they're the ones that are cursed to this judgment. The Lord said in Solomon said it through the Spirit that the Lord had created all things for himself, yet even the wicked for the day of evil. They're cursed, meaning they're doomed to this condemnation. Because these are people who the Lord said in Malachi, the first chapter, that though they shall build, he will throw down. All right. And also it said that there would be a people against whom he would have indignation forever. These would be a people who would not receive any mercy from the Lord. So that judgment is still awaiting. All right. It says the sword of the Lord is filled with blood and is made fat with fatness. It's going to be like a sacrifice to the Lord. And with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams, for the Lord have a sacrifice in Basra and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. All right. And this is what Vocab he wants to shy away from. This is what they want to run away from their destiny. All right. Hey, I'd deny it too. If I was one of them, I'd deny. I'd be in total denial. Now, it would help me sleep better at night to know that these things already been fulfilled. They don't exist no more, so therefore I'm not those people. That's to sleep better at night. But we know better, man. Come on now. All right. And there's nothing that you can say or do about it. You're just wrong. Okay. Esau is the end of the world. So there's plenty more examples that I could have went into. Like dealing with the eagle, for example, and then when you go into Ezra, let me see if I can get that. Just go to Second Ezra 11 and verse it might be 12. It talks about the 12 feathered wings and the 3 heads, which we know the 12 feathered wings talking about the 12 Roman Caesars. Let me go. I think it might be in this chapter. Let me see. Yeah, Second Ezra 12 and verse 9 says, "For thou hast judged me worthy to shew me the last times. And he said unto me, This is the interpretation of the vision. The eagle whom thou sawest come up from the sea is the kingdom which was seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel the prophet." All right, so the fourth beast And that same fourth beast, guess what? Is also the toes of the statue. We can't forget that. Daniel 2. Yeah, Daniel 2 and 40. This is dealing with Rome. And we know that Rome fell, but it resurfaced, and now we at the foot and toes of the Roman Empire. Okay, and they're back with a vengeance. They're stronger. They got more power. This is he who's coming after the working of Satan with all power, signs, and lying wonders. All right, very technological. They got AI. They got more powerful weapons than they did going back to the ancient Roman Empire. All right, so this is Daniel 2 and 40 says, "And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of the potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided." All right, and you see that, there's skirmishes between those different European countries within the European Union. All right, which started off as 10 nations. All right, the European Economic Community. They started off as the Treaty of Rome. Look that history up. Okay, it says, "But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay." You got some of the strong European allies among each other, and you got weaker ones, weaker currency, weaker economies, and then you got the ones that have the strong economies. And a lot of them are divided, under you know, Babylon's policies and how they're conducting deals and treaties and things of that nature. Like they're divided over uh, um, how Russia is being handled, because it's what the U.S. is doing against Russia with the sanctions and all that is backfiring on the beast. They're taking the brunt end of that, but it's also affecting the U.S. too. Verse 44 says, "And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people." All right, this is talking about when Yahweh Shai comes back and he brings his dominion. All right, in the midst of these nations ruling, with Esau at the top, Yahweh Shai is going to come and establish his kingdom, and it's going to take for him to judge and make war with them. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest the stone, who is this vocab, was cut out of the mountain without hands, and it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, and the great power have made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof is sure. So what is this prophesying? It's going to be a stone cut out of the mountain without hands, that's going to break in pieces. That's going to come back and destroy these kingdoms. With Esau, which is the modern Rome, all right, they're gonna receive it. That's why it speaks of who. That's why it says, "Who is this that cometh from Basra? Who is this that cometh from Edom with thy garments from Basra?" Because the Edomites are going to be in power, so the Lord's he's gonna judge and make war with them, and then the other nations as well. Clearly prophetic. This man does not understand the eschatology of the scriptures. The Edomites will definitely, surely be here. So they're still here in the earth. They were not done away with, or they didn't just happen to vanish by the Herodians just dying off, or just like what the hell are you talking? Where you get this from? And they were not the only Edomite family. The Romans were Edomites, and that's pursuing the prophecy. Ezra was given that vision about the eagle, and it happens to be the same beast that Daniel prophesied of. Okay, and the end would come through the fall of the Edomites. All right, this was the second Ezra 11. We finna close out. I got to start making moves right now. Is second Ezra 11 and 39. It says, "Art not thou it that remainest of the four beasts whom I made to reign in my world, that the end of their times might come through them? They're the end of the world. And the fourth came and overcame all the beasts that were past and had power over the world with great fearfulness." They basically they got everybody's respect. They have the power to cause fire to come down from heaven. They destroyed all type of cities, made examples out of certain countries that wouldn't play ball, right? Who is this that can make war with the beast? It says, "And over the whole compass of the earth with much wicked oppression." To this day we oppressed, and so long time dwelt he upon the earth with deceit, because he's the deceiver, man. Just like Vocab. For the earth has thou not judged with truth, for thou hast afflicted the meek, thou hast hurt the peaceable, that would be Israel. Thou hast loved liars and destroyed the dwellings of them that brought forth fruit, and hast cast down the walls of such as did thee no harm. Therefore is thy wrongful dealing come up to the highest, and thy pride unto the mighty. Yeah, he will discover your sins. Be happy and glad, O daughter of Edom. It says, "The highest also have looked upon the proud times, and behold, they are ended, and his abominations are fulfilled. And therefore appear no more thou eagle, nor thy horrible wings, nor thy wicked fathers, nor thy malicious heads, nor thy hurtful claws, nor thy vain body, that all the earth may be refreshed and may return, being delivered from thy violence, that she may hope for the judgment and mercy of him that made her." And this was prophesying of the fall of ancient Roman Empire. But that which have been is that which shall be. And there's no new thing under the sun. So Rome is going to fall again, but this time it's going to be by way of fire. All right, his sword is going to be bathed in heaven and come down upon it. That's how it's going to go out this time. They're not going to just be slain in all type of battles and then flee and disappear. No, this kingdom is going to get destroyed by fire, man. The Lord's going to come to bring it, and missiles from these other nations. So that's how these Edomites are going to go out. And then the ones of them that are still alive in parts of the world that isn't hit, they're going to go right into captivity. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. Even though you don't agree with that, but that's exactly what it means. So anyway, I'm gonna close it. The Lord willing, to edify him, give all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. To the next lesson, Shalom.